The 1980s gave us neon fashion, arcade games, and unforgettable pop culture. But not everything from the decade was a hit. Some products failed so badly they became legends of embarrassment. In this video, we take a deep nostalgic dive into 12 infamous products from the 80s that were complete disasters, from marketing blunders and overpriced tech to ideas that were simply ahead of their time, or never should have existed at all. Whether you grew up in the 80s, or just love retro history, these shocking failures will surprise you, amuse you, and make you wonder, how did anyone think this was a good idea? Our first stop is a cautionary tale in brand loyalty. New Coke. In 1985, after nearly a century of success, the Coca-Cola Company made a decision that would go down in history. They decided to reformulate their iconic recipe, a secret formula that had defined the taste of cola for generations. The goal was to create a smoother, sweeter product that could better compete with Pepsi in blind taste tests, where its rival often had the edge. The company poured millions into research and development, confident that they had a winner on their hands. They were wrong. Almost immediately after New Coke hit the shelves, the public revolted. Fans didn't just dislike the new, sweeter taste. They felt betrayed. This wasn't just a soft drink. It was a piece of Americana, and consumers felt that the company had tampered with a cultural icon. The backlash was massive and unprecedented. Protest groups formed, hotlines were flooded with angry calls, and people began hoarding the original formula. The public outcry was so intense that after just 79 days, the company waved the white flag. The original recipe was brought back under the name Coca-Cola Classic, and New Coke was quietly phased out. It remains one of the biggest and most studied marketing blunders of all time, a powerful lesson in not fixing what isn't broken. From a beverage disaster to a digital one, let's talk about the game that almost killed an entire industry. Atari 2600's E.T., the Extraterrestrial. Released in 1982 to coincide with the blockbuster film, expectations were sky high. Atari was banking on the movie's monumental success to guarantee massive sales. However, the game's development was infamously rushed, condensed into just 5.5 weeks to meet the holiday shopping season. The result was a confusing, frustrating, and nearly unplayable mess of a game. Players were left wandering as the alien protagonist, constantly falling into pits with no clear objective. The game's failure was catastrophic. It is widely blamed for being a major catalyst in the great video game crash of 1983, a severe industry-wide recession that shook consumer confidence. Atari had produced millions of cartridges, but the terrible reviews and word of mouth meant they couldn't sell them. The company was left with a mountain of unsold inventory. In one of the most legendary stories in gaming history, millions of these unsold ET cartridges were famously buried in a New Mexico landfill, a literal tombstone for Atari's golden age, and a symbol of corporate hubris. Now, let's shift gears to the automotive world. While its production ended in 1959, the ghost of the Ford Edsel lingered for decades, its name becoming a cultural shorthand for failure well into the 80s. The Edsel was supposed to be Ford's revolutionary entry into the mid-range market, a car for the aspirational American family. It was subjected to one of the most intense and expensive marketing campaigns Podros had ever seen, building up enormous hype before anyone had even seen the car. This overhyped launch set expectations impossibly high. When the Edsel was finally unveiled, the public was confused. Its controversial vertical grille was mocked, and its features didn't seem to justify the price. Buyers were unsure which market segment it was supposed to occupy, and it competed with Ford's own established Mercury line. Sales were abysmal from the start. The car was plagued with quality control issues, and its name, Edsel, which was chosen to honor Henry Ford's son, just didn't resonate with the public. It quickly became a joke, a symbol of a corporate giant's spectacular miscalculation, and its name remains synonymous with commercial disaster to this day. From a car that was too much to a vehicle that was far too little. We have the Sinclair C5, launched in 1985. This bizarre-looking electric tricycle was pitched by British inventor Sir Clive Sinclair as the future of personal transport. It was a single-seater, battery-powered electrically assisted pedal cycle designed for short urban commutes. The concept was ambitious and, in some ways, decades ahead of its time, predicting a future of micromobility, but the execution was a complete failure. The C5 offered its driver absolutely no protection from the weather, a fatal flaw in the rainy United Kingdom. It was also dangerously low to the ground, making it difficult for other drivers to see. Worse, it was incredibly slow, topping out at a mere 15 miles per hour, making it a hazard on busy roads. The public reaction was a mix of ridicule and genuine safety concerns. Sales collapsed almost instantly, and production ceased within months. The Sinclair C5 became a classic example of a futuristic idea that was utterly impractical in the real world. Next, we have a product that sounds more like a punchline than a real item. Clairol's Touch of Yogurt Shampoo. In the early 80s, the natural trend was gaining steam, and companies scrambled to infuse their products with wholesome, organic-sounding ingredients. Clairol decided to jump on this bandwagon by marketing a shampoo that highlighted its yogurt-enriched formula. The idea was to suggest it was a healthy, nourishing treatment for your hair. The problem was in the name. Touch of Yogurt Shampoo didn't just suggest a natural ingredient. It made people think the bottle literally contained yogurt. This caused widespread confusion and a fair bit of mockery. Shoppers were reportedly unsure if it needed to be refrigerated, and some consumers even tried eating it, leading to a few unfortunate incidents. The brand couldn't overcome the bizarre association. Instead of seeming healthy and natural, it just seemed weird. The product was quickly and quietly pulled from shelves, becoming a lesson in how a name can make or break a product. Let's turn to the world of personal computing with the Apple Lisa. Released in 1983, the Lisa was a technological marvel. It was one of the very first commercially available computers, comcitos, a graphical user interface, or GUI, complete with a mouse, windows, and icons. This was the foundation modern computing as we know it, a revolutionary step away from complex command-line interfaces. Steve Jobs had envisioned it as the next big thing, but this groundbreaking technology came with a staggering price tag. The Apple Lisa was priced at nearly $10,000, equivalent to over $30,000 today, placing it far out of reach for the average consumer and even most businesses. To make matters worse, it was notoriously slow compared to its text-based competitors. The Lisa's fate was sealed when Apple released the Macintosh just a year later. The Mac offered a similar, albeit less advanced, graphical interface, but at a much more accessible price point. The Lisa was quickly overshadowed and discontinued, a brilliant machine that was simply too expensive and too early for its market. Now for a fast food innovation that was brilliant in theory but a disaster in practice. The McDonald's McDLT, introduced in the mid-80s. The McDLT, which stood for McDonald's lettuce and tomato, aimed to solve a classic burger dilemma: how to keep the hot side hot and the cool side cool. The solution was a clever, custom-designed two-sided styrofoam container. One side held the hot beef patty and bottom bun, while the other held the cool lettuce, tomato, cheese, and top bun. The customer would then assemble the burger themselves. The ad campaign, starring a young Jason Alexander, was catchy, but the packaging was the product's undoing. The container was awkward and incredibly bulky, essentially doubling the amount of waste for a single burger. As the late 80s saw a rise in environmental consciousness, this excessive styrofoam packaging became a symbol of corporate irresponsibility. Amid growing public pressure and green concerns, McDonald's was forced to discontinue the McDLT. The hot side hot, cool side cool dream died, buried under a mountain of non-biodegradable foam. Back to the automotive world for a car that failed in reality, but became an icon on screen. The DeLorean DMC-12. With its futuristic, unpainted stainless steel body and distinctive gull-wing doors, the DeLorean looked like nothing else on the road. It was the brainchild of automotive executive John DeLorean, and it was dripping with 80s cool. The public was captivated by its sci-fi aesthetic. Unfortunately, the car's performance and reliability didn't live up to its looks. The stainless steel body was a nightmare to repair, showing every fingerprint and smudge. The engine was underpowered, and the car was plagued with electrical problems and poor build quality. It was also expensive. The company's fate was sealed when John DeLorean was caught in an FBI sting operation, and the company collapsed into bankruptcy after producing only about 9,000 cars. The DeLorean was destined to be a failed curiosity, but it was saved from total obscurity by its starring role as the time machine in the 1985 blockbuster, Back to the Future *. Pop culture immortalized it, turning a commercial failure into a beloved icon. From one clear failure to another, let's talk about Crystal Pepsi. Developed in the late 80s and launched in the early 90s, this product was born from the clear craze of the era, which equated clarity with purity and health. PepsiCo invested heavily in the idea of a caffeine-free clear cola. The marketing campaign was huge, featuring Van Halen's hit song Right Now, and positioning the drink as a new age, sophisticated alternative. But consumers were baffled. For decades, they had been conditioned to associate a dark caramel color with the taste of cola. When they drank Crystal Pepsi, their brains expected something different, like a lemon-lime soda. The taste, which was a slightly milder version of regular Pepsi, didn't match the visual expectation. The branding strategy was weak, failing to explain why anyone should choose a clear cola. The novelty wore off quickly, and sales plummeted. Crystal Pepsi vanished from stores, becoming a classic example of a product that confused consumers rather than convincing them. If a clear cola was confusing, our next product was just plain weird. Hubba Bubba Soda. Capitalizing on the success of their popular bubblegum, Wrigley's licensed the Hubba Bubba name for a line of soft drinks in the late 80s. The logic seemed simple. If kids love the taste of Hubba Bubba gum, surely they'll love a soda that tastes exactly the same. The drink came in a bright pink color, mimicking the original gum. The novelty was strong, but it didn't last. While the first sip might have been a fun, sugary throwback to childhood, most consumers found an entire bottle of bubblegum-flavored soda to be overwhelmingly sweet and cloying. It was a one-trick pony. Once the initial curiosity was satisfied, there was little reason for a repeat purchase. It was a short-lived experiment that proved that not every popular candy flavor translates well into a beverage. Nearing the end of our list, we have another piece of tech that was way ahead of the curve. The Amstrad emailer phone, released in the late 80s. This device was marketed as an all-in-one solution for home communication: a telephone, an answering machine, and an email device. The concept was undeniably forward-thinking, predicting the convergence of communication technologies that would define the next century. However, the technology of the day just wasn't ready. The Amstrad emailer was a bulky, impractical, and expensive landline phone. Its ability to send and receive emails relied on a slow dial-up connection, and composing messages on its tiny keyboard was a chore. It arrived before most people even had email or understood what it was for. It was a solution to a problem that the mass market didn't have yet. Consumers weren't ready for a complex, pricey device that did something they didn't need, and the product quickly faded into a footnote of tech history. Finally, we arrive at what might be the most baffling brand extension of all time: Colgate Dinner Entrees. In 1982, the toothpaste giant Colgate-Palmolive decided to venture into a completely unrelated market: frozen foods. The product line, known as Colgate's Kitchen Entrees, featured a range of frozen meals, ready to be heated and served for dinner. The company hoped to leverage its trusted household name to break into the booming frozen food industry. The failure was immediate and spectacular. Consumers simply could not disconnect the brand name Colgate from the taste of toothpaste. The very idea of eating a Colgate beef entree was unappetizing, creating a powerful cognitive dissonance. The brand mismatch was so severe that it killed any trust or interest in the product. People associate Colgate with minty fresh breath and dental hygiene, not dinner. It's no surprise that the product was a rapid and unforgettable failure, often cited as the ultimate example of what not to do in brand management. And there you have it, 12 products from the 80s that were total disasters. Each one is a story of ambition, miscalculation, and sometimes just plain bad ideas. From the public outcry over New Coke to the silent burial of ET cartridges, these failures have become legends in their own right, teaching valuable lessons in business, marketing, and a simple truth: not every idea is a good one. Thanks for watching, and let us know in the comments which of these 80s flops you remember.